And several of our kings down the line have done the same. You've all been hearing tonight about the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights contains an oath. No foreign prince, person, prelate, state or potentate hath or ought to have any jurisdiction, power, superiority, supremacy or authority, ecclesiastical or spiritual within this realm. Our forefathers certainly covered all the bases. But that oath is not an oath of 1689. Because I have a book of Elizabethan statutes. And it is in a book of statutes from Elizabeth I that all people who worked in government in any sphere for Elizabeth I had to swear the same oath. And if they declined to take that oath, all of their property was seized. Everything they owned was seized. And it was as if they were dead. Nobody was allowed to help them, to feed them, to do anything for them. It was as if they were dead. If they changed their mind, they took the oath, they got it all back again. But that was in the Bill of Rights. Something else I will, if you don't mind, John, mention, is on weapons for our defence. The Bill of Rights says you are entitled, if you are a Protestant, I'm a Roman Catholic, so don't count me, to carry weapons for your defence, as allowed by law. So our forefathers who produced the Bill of Rights and Declaration of Rights understood that things would change, and that it may well be that various weapons would become unacceptable in a civilised society, and so they could gradually be phased out by use of the law. So the Bill of Rights says, as allowed by law. It doesn't just say you can carry weapons for your defence, it says, as allowed by law. As a policeman, you are not allowed to carry around an aerosol with the intention of spraying it into an attacker's eyes. But I used to say to the girls when I was doing the neighbourhood watch talks, carry some hairspray in your bag. If you're attacked, spray it into the man's eyes and run like hell. And if the policeman comes up and says to you, but you sprayed that, that's an offensive weapon, why have you got it? You say, because I'm a beautiful young woman, officer, and I use it on my hair. Because the law says that whilst you may not carry a weapon for your defence, it says that you may make use of anything which is reasonably available to defend yourself with. All right? That's the end. Any questions? I don't know.
Wonderful talk. I'm sure we all agree absolutely with what you've said about these crimes, the sedition and the treason, and it would be wonderful to think that your method would work. But don't you think that if you did find a chief constable who wasn't a Freemason or a member of common purpose, and I have my doubts that such a person exists, that he and any inspector that he delegated the job to would simply be removed from office before they could do anything?
Well, Chief Inspector Howard said to me, because I said to him, I wish to God I still had a warrant card. Because Douglas Hurd would currently be sat in a cell waiting for me to decide if I'd eaten enough sticky buns and drunk enough tea to go and interview him. And he said to me, well, you would be in trouble then, wouldn't you? And I said, why? And he said, because you'd be refusing to obey the orders of your senior officers. I said, yes, I would, but why would I be in trouble? And he said to me, I've just told you, because you'd be refusing to obey the orders of your senior officers. And I said, no, you missed the point. Any senior officer who gave me that order would be in the cell next to Douglas Hurd, charged with obstructing an officer in the execution of his duty to detect offences. And I would go on arresting senior officers until I was the highest ranking bloody policeman in the country. But you can't stop me doing it because the law says I can.
The gentleman there.
Again, I agree, that's absolutely brilliant. I wish I'd have been with you at the time when you started this. I'm on side. Do you think it would be a good idea to ask the press to come along as we go to the police station?
Up in Scotland, the head of UKIP Scotland, he arrived at his local police station, which actually in Gordon Brown's own constituency, and he took all of the local press with him and the local radio station with him. And they walked through the door and they said, "Yes sir, what can I do for you?" said the sergeant behind the desk. He said, "I want to report the government for treason." "Oh, we don't get many of them," said the sergeant, "we'll get the inspector down." The inspector came down, he said, "Oh, we don't get many of them, we'll get the CID down." And they got the senior detective down, who came down and said, "Yes, I'm happy to record that." It all went out over the local media, it was all in the local press, so yes, by all means take them with you.
There's two last questions, please. That gentleman there.
Yeah, thanks for the chat and also mentioning Freemasons. It's obviously a very vulgar thing and we should remove it from our society. It's obviously Freemasonry, it is an enemy of civilization and at the core of it is the Kabbalah. I've just returned from America.
Yeah, I can't hear you very well.
Yeah, I've just returned from the United States where I was working for presidential candidate for a year. And this enemy power that you talk about that's dismantling civilization in Europe, this enemy power is obviously Jewish supremacism. Because if you look in the commanding heights of the destruction of civilization, whether it be in Europe or in North America, pretty much anywhere in the world, you'll find that there's an overrepresentation of this particular ethnic group. So I just wondered if you could talk about Jewish supremacism.
Well, the way I look at this is quite simple. If we take out 3 dozen government ministers and hang them by the neck until they are dead, nobody else is going to be in a rush to stick their head above the parapet. That includes Jewish supremacists, Freemasons, common purpose, the whole lot. It will all go. They will drive this house so far.
We know what presses your buttons. One last question there, please.
Hello Albert, Peter Oaks, we have spoken on the phone some years ago. In 2001, I made 2 citizens' arrests in Stafford and we obtained 2 incident numbers. And in 2005, I wrote to the Chief Constable of Staffordshire asking what is the status on these 2 incidents. And I received a letter saying that they had no record of any such incidents. So I wrote back and sent them a photograph of the police officers, the car and its registration number, and a statement of PC Podmore. So there I have absolute proof of 2 incidents, the constables who attended and the police officer's statement. And they wrote back and said, go to your local police station.
Where do you go? Well, what you do is you go to the last policeman that you dealt with, because he was the last one that had responsibility for it. You report him for serious neglect of duty, for failing to carry out the inquiry into the allegations you're making, and let the police internal complaints department sort him out. Because as sure as God made little apples, if it wasn't him, he's going to scream, "It wasn't me, it was him." And then somebody else will get in there. Well, whatever. Can we take one from just from the
No, we've got to move on. Ladies and gentlemen, a big thanks to Albert. If all policemen were like Albert, we wouldn't be in the mess we're in now. Now, just 5 more minutes, please. I've got something amazing to tell you, okay? I want to make this point. Most of the police men and women in this country are on our sides, okay? They've got to protect their jobs, so we've got to work with them, but we also have got to do what Albert said.